Africa Prime, brought to you by Jameson's Select Reserve.
South Africa's Department of Energy is responsible for the exploration, development, processing and management of the nation's energy resources. As we all know, we are currently on a knife edge as far as energy sufficiency is concerned, and industrialists and ordinary consumers want to know, will Eskom be able to keep on the lights? And importantly, do we have a plan to ensure that this is never an issue again? Welcome to this week's edition of Africa Prime. I'm Godfrey Motizwa. Tonight, we welcome the Minister of Energy, Minister Dipuo Peters. Minister, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Let's talk about creating the environment. The issues I pose are issues that ordinary South Africans speak about every day. Whenever the systems trip and there's darkness, there are questions around whether this is going to be a perpetual issue or it's been dealt with adequately. Let's begin at the beginning. Do we have a plan to ensure that going forward, the lights will be on?
I just want to reassure South Africans, both industrialists as well as household consumers, that as a government, we really worked hard to make sure that we can keep the lights on, especially to make sure that we can then create jobs. What we have realized is that from 1994, this government was having a huge responsibility of meeting the basic needs of our people. And we had certain things that we had to take a decision on. And one of those was, you would remember in 1994, there was an indication that South Africa had an oversupply of electricity. And we actually realized that that oversupply was created by the fact that the majority of South Africans were not having electricity. So the oversupply was because it was more racially based and delivered in some quarters. Our people in the rural areas, our people in the townships didn't have. So I just want to indicate that as a government, we also realized that when we had pressures, when we started introducing policies like free basic electricity, but also making it possible that we can interconnect those households. You would know that we have a target for 2014 universal access for all formal households. Then we realized that the supply that we had was inadequate. Right. And that is why the decision was taken to say, let us look at building more capacity in terms of building the generation capacity. And now I would want to say that I can assure you we have an integrated resource plan, which is the South African energy plan.
Right.
An energy mix plan which speaks to the different resources that we have in South Africa, but also in the SADC region, so as to make it possible that when we have excess supply, we can supply other countries in the region, but also when they have excess supply, they can supply us. So within the Southern African Power Pool, we have that type of a responsibility to make sure that we can have the arrangements with the region. Yeah. I just want to indicate that the integrated resource plan is a 20-year plan. The 20-year plan speaks to the different percentages that we are going to bring in. And also in it, we also speak about how we are going to bring in the independent power producers so that we can then be able to alleviate the pressure from Eskom alone. Right. We are saying 30% of our new power must come from independent power producers. We're already busy establishing a legislation for independent systems and market operator, which will be a buying office for the independent power generators. Sure. But I also want to indicate that within this integrated resource plan, very interesting for us is that we've got 42% of the new power that would be coming directly from renewable energy.
But you see, Minister, therein lies the problem, because you came in 2009, and forgive me for doubting here, because your department has been caught out before, where we found economic growth and the demand that it generated outstripping the supply that was available. What assurance do we have that this time round it will be different in the IRP 2010 plan?
I'm saying it is going to be different, primarily because of the issues that I've highlighted to you. The fact that we have looked at what renewable energy can bring in, what the independent power producers can bring in. Because in the past, we over-relied only on Eskom. And if there were inadequacies on the part of our utility, we didn't have a fallback position. So bringing in independent power producers means that we can also buy power from independent power producers. Another interesting point is the policy on cogeneration. Right. For those companies like Sasol and others, BHP Billiton and many, that can generate power, including our own Petros A, which is generating power and be able to supply itself. When we talk about own co-generation, we mean that we could also allow for Eskom to buy from them,
right,
whilst Eskom is also their supplier. So
right,
we are creating a mutually beneficial arrangement with industry role players. The other thing that I need to bring to the fore is the decision to make sure that we can reduce the energy intensity.
Right.
Remember, companies are expected to save about 10 to 15%, and I just need to applaud our industry role players through the initiative called the National Business Initiative, where they have actually voluntarily indicated what they are going to do. But the interesting part is that we are not saying reduce your production.
Yeah.
We are saying they must have programs which they can invest in,
yeah,
that can then be able to offset their 10% or 15%.
Right. So
we've
use
got
your power more efficiently.
Yes, but we've got a very interesting program which has proven that we can save a lot of our energy with the solar water heating program. Remember, the 1 million solar water geysers is going to give us 3,000 megawatts back. And that in itself is saving a power plant.
Right.
And industries can be able to invest in the communities. I've already engaged my colleague in mineral resources to say engage with Salga and other role players so that within their IDPs they include solar water heating,
right,
so that this social labor plans of companies can then be able to respond to what municipalities need.
Okay.
So I'm
Minister,
saying to you that if we will all work together,
yeah,
we can. That's why we are a government that says working together, we can do more.
You are saying the solution lies in engaging the private sector, and therein lies my next question,
yes,
which is, how do you bring in the private sector when you have an environment that's characterized by debate that deters private investment? I mean, we're talking about nationalization here, and yet at the same time we are saying the private sector ought to be partners in trying to provide energy to the South African economy in sufficient numbers.
I just don't want to engage too much in the nationalisation debate, because you would know what the ANC policy is.
They are working
but
on
also, it? Yes, the reference group that they have established that
sure,
is doing an investigation on a better model, economic model for the country,
sure,
but also the fact that in government we are not, you cannot debate something that doesn't apply as we speak.
Sure.
So I just want to say South African business knows, and I'm happy that last week the President addressed South African business, sure, and even encouraged them to do more, especially our emerging or black stakeholders,
yeah,
South African companies, so as to be able to make sure that we create local capacity. And I want to say, even in the energy sector,
yeah,
that is what we want. If, let me just conclude, if
sure,
we take that 30% new power, and it is produced by local companies, I just want to say, because they've got a responsibility, they know that they don't have anything that a second passport to run out with. They would then have to make sure that the lights stay on. So I just want to say, when it comes to making it possible that we can keep the lights on, keep our industries going, we've got a big responsibility to create 5 million jobs in 10 years. And the energy sector is central to that. Without power or energy, we can't do it.
I agree with you, but part of the problem is that the monies that we are asking for from the private sector requires long lead times. If you're going to put in money into a power plant, it takes a long time to build that power plant. So what you currently have is a policy framework that sort of hinders that. So the question I'm putting to you is, how do we put in a policy framework that enables private and new money to come in, while at the same time accepting that this debate is going on?
Which policy framework is hindering investment? Because you seem to suggest that there is a policy framework as we speak that is in place that hinders that.
In part, it's the debate, it's not a policy framework as such,
okay,
but in part is the debate around nationalization. I don't want us to make this discussion part of the nationalization debate, but I am raising it as a deterrent for money that needs to be committed for the long term.
I think I understand your point, and from the energy perspective, we'll have to engage it further,
sure,
to look at whether it would have
So there is a
serious
commitment on the government side.
There is a commitment on the government side. Then that is why you'd find that because this year is actually a year in which the ruling party is busy with policy review, policy making processes, we also have a responsibility to input into it as departments, as sectors where we are deployed, so that we can then have a well-informed policy that can drive this economic trajectory that we want to engage on.
Yeah. Now, Minister, one of the answers that's been provided by some people is the whole issue around gas and how the gas reserve that have been identified in the country. I've seen an estimate suggesting as much as 485 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves possibly under South African ground. But we also know that there's a huge controversy around it in terms of protecting the environment. What's your stance as a ministry in terms of encouraging the development of those gas reserves to ensure that the country has sufficient energy supplies while at the same time taking care of the environment?
As the policy department that is responsible for energy security, I would want to say, as well as the mandate and the performance agreement that I've signed with the president, is to make sure that we keep the lights on, we keep the cars and industries going. So if anything, I would advocate for a situation where our Department for Science and Technology, as well as our own entity called South African National Energy Development Institute, look at how best to be able to extract the gas that we are said to be having in South Africa.
Right.
I just want to indicate to you that, in fact, indicators are that it is not only shale gas. We've got coal bed methane, which we are engaging with DMR on to say, what do we do? Because coal bed methane and coal coexist. So do we liberate the coal and then allow the gas to escape? And when it escapes, it creates the more greenhouse gas emissions. Or do we first extract the gas and then be able to extract the coal? So it is those type of debates that we are engaging on. But all this we do because we have the best interest of South Africans into consideration. South Africa has got the best National Environmental Management Act. We've got the long-term mitigation scenarios, which actually are intended to make sure that we can avoid a situation where we spoil the environment for generations to come. Me and you know that we are custodians of Mother Earth for our descendants or those who come, generations to come. So we've got that responsibility. Sure. But if we are informed that there is potential for those TCFs in the Karoo, we need to look at a very environmentally responsible way of extracting it.
Which brings in the question of renewable energy. And I just want
to say to you that, surprising enough, some of the companies and some of the objectors to fracking in the Karoo, they themselves knows that this technology has been used for more than 60 years. All over the world.
In the US, I heard 1 million times and it's been working.
In fact, this technology is being used to actually even extract the very oil all over. It is used in mining. How do you liberate gold from the soil if you're not fracturing the earth? So I think it is important that we look at this technology and say, as South Africa, how can we make it environmentally safer? Because it has the potential to give us the amount of, because from gas we can do a liquid fuel, we can also improve in terms of energy efficiency by making sure that the households can use gas for cooking and space heating. When I went to the Global Energy Leaders Forum, I was told that in the next 100 years, gas is the route to go. And if we have been blessed with gas, we need to extract it responsibly and use it responsibly for the benefit of the people of South Africa. Our people are without energy as we speak. And I want to say that when people march, most of the times you find that they march for water, they march for electricity. And if there is potential for gas-powered power plants, through that gas that we can extract there, why not go into it? And I'm appealing to those who are objecting that let's hope that it's genuine environmental concerns as opposed to other economic or political factors. Because if that is the case, it means that we would be having people in our shores or in our land who are working against the development of South Africa. And I want to say, if we stand the chance to have a second, a Qatar in the Karoo, Imagine our people who are hungry as we speak without fracking. They are hungry as we speak. They are unemployed. People are saying in the Karoo there are more sheep than human beings because people are moving out to Cape Town, they are moving out to Johannesburg because there is nothing to live on. So if there's an oasis in the desert for them, why not explore it? And I just want to say that I need to upfront indicate that there's a member of cabinet. I'm individually and collectively responsible. And the cabinet has now said there's a moratorium, but cabinet is looking at how to get evidence. That moratorium is not saying no to fracking or whatever. They are collecting information that can make South Africa take responsible, evidence-based type of decisions. And I'm happy for that.
I can tell you, Minister, industry is waiting for it because we had an interview with Sasol, the CEO, and he is talking about the potential of shale gas and that they are already working in the US. And as we discussed, certainly it has the potential to transform South Africa's economy. Minister, we have to continue that conversation because we need to take a break now. And after that break, we will be talking to the Minister, Dipuo Peters, about her life, where she started. And then perhaps let's bring in the energy mix again because there's certainly a lot to be said about that.